I've always wanted a cooking Skottle for camping, but I could never justify the price. So in this video, I want to share with you how I made my own Skottle for under 120 bucks for camping. All right, so this is the disc that I've chosen for my budget Skottle build, and it's 19 inches in diameter, 16 gauge in material thickness, and it's carbon steel, so that's good because we can weld to it. Now this one came with some cheesy, flimsy handles welded to it. They're just barely tacked on. If you wanted to keep them, I would suggest definitely putting some better quality welds on it, but I'll be taking mine off. I picked this up for under 50 bucks on Amazon. I thought it was a great deal, and I think it's gonna work perfect for our budget Skottle build. Now for this budget Skottle build, I wanted to make the components as cheap as possible, yet still strong. So I went with 1/2 inch EMT, 3 sticks in 5-foot lengths, and I cut them down to about 36 to about 37 inches in length. And that's gonna be our legs for the bottom of the Skottle. Now to attach the legs to the Skottle, we are gonna be doing some welding. These are 1/2 inch EMT couplers. They have these threaded set screws on them. I decided to replace the set screws, just eye bolts. I used a threaded tap to rethread the threads, and that's what I'm gonna be using to attach the legs to the bottom of the Skottle. And I feel like it's gonna be super simple to set up while you're out there camping and strong enough to hold up your meals while you're cooking. Now for the last part, I just picked up these little rubber end caps. They're 17 millimeters, and they give the end of the conduit a little bit of aesthetic look. So other than that, let's get to welding these to the bottom of the disc. Now I'm gonna do that by first finding the center, and I believe it's somewhere between 20 1/4 here in the center. And then I'll take a protractor and just go 120 degrees, make my mark, 120 degrees, 120 degrees. And that's how I'm gonna get my 3-leg support. Now, after finding the 120 degree separation between the couplers, I went 4 inches from the edge towards the center of the disc, and then all I had to do was just burn them in. After the welds, I flipped over the disc, and I noticed on the top side of the cooking surface, there was a bit of dross or slag, so I went ahead and sanded that all smooth. And I made these heart shapes to make it a little bit more aesthetic. Then it was time to test fit the legs, so I attached them, and for the most part it seemed pretty sturdy, but I decided to drill a hole at the end of each leg. That way when I thread in the locking bolts, to make sure that they won't fall off if I were to pick up the Skottle and move it around. Now I've already had quite a bit of use with the Skottle. We took it camping, and for the most part it worked out really well, and we were pretty impressed, other than the burner that I was using, which is considered a 10,000 BTU burner here. I was a bit skeptical because I noticed this one at the local Walmart by Ozark Trail. It's basically the same one as the Coleman bottle top burner. Is a little bit bigger, and I liked how the top here is much larger in diameter compared to the smaller one. Now this one did put off quite a bit of heat, but I feel like this one's going to be more of a 10,000 BTU rated. Now the design for attaching the smaller burner, I used this horseshoe and I welded it to the bottom of the Skottle, and it would just attach like that on and off. Very simple idea, except that there was some more welding and fabricating involved. Now, since I've changed this burner, I went with a different attaching method, and essentially all I did was use some stainless steel wire with these aluminum crimps and attached 3 loops to these legs that attach the valve to the top surface area of the burner. And I just basically wired the wire through into loops, and it self-centers into the bottom of the Skottle. And I really like this because it's up real close, cheaper to make, lighter in weight, and easier to attach to the Skottle. And here I am cutting off the excess ends after the crimps so we don't poke ourselves. Now for assembling the Skottle, all the parts are here on the table, and it's pretty straightforward. You just grab your burner and then hook on your loops. Just like that, and it's pretty well secure and tight. Now you could choose to either put the wire through the groove of the EMT coupler, or after we put the legs on, you can have it just being held up by the through bolts for attaching the legs. So it bottoms out and then run the nut up and it's good. All right, so this is how it's gonna look all set up and assembled. We have the shorter legs if you want to do like a tabletop or just have it shorter. This was the scrap off of what we cut for these legs. And then I'll just go ahead and flip it around and set it onto the ground. And that's essentially our burner, thread in the bottle, and we are ready to cook. Now for seasoning the Skottle, the manufacturer says it's ready for cooking, but since we did some fabricating on it and it's not as clean, I'm gonna throw some water in it and let it boil for about 15 minutes just to get it sanitary. And then I'm gonna scrub it down. If it got a little bit of rust, that's fine. And then we'll start adding oil to it and do some heat cycles with oil and wiping it down, boil it, wipe it down, heat it up, and just burn that oil off. I'm gonna be using a high temp oil like olive oil. Vegetable oil is okay. Now I've got the olive oil right here. I'm gonna use paper towels and some tongs. But I've also got this lighter here. It's pretty cool. It came with the first burner that I used. And all you need is an arc. The gas is already there and it lights it up. So it's pretty simple. We'll just turn it on. Cool. So that's heating up. So I've got it on high. I'm going to take my olive oil and just put some on there, let it heat up, and then we'll spread it around. You can also do the back side of it with your oil. You just don't want to do it when it's hot. Don't burn yourself. But other than that, just throw some oil in there and wipe it down.
Where all this stuff cooks best.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for the Skottle build and sharing you guys how I made it for under about $120. And that's including the 22-inch travel bag for the Skottle and the bottle top and all the accessories. This bag has a large pocket in the front and it's made for a cymbal like a drum set. And you can just put it right there, it protects it, keeps it from getting dusty and everything. And it's got a lot of space in it. So this is about 22 bucks on Amazon. I'll leave all the links in the description box below this video. This was the box for the burner. This is by Ozark Trail, 25 bucks. So yeah, very easy to assemble and work with. We like cooking on it, especially for camping and everything. And yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. Thanks for hanging out with me in the garage today and sharing with you this Skottle build for under 120 bucks. If you guys like this content, make sure to hit the thumbs up and we'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good day. Peace out.